shreshtam manamapi sachiputram atra sarupam shirupam tasyagrajam urupanim matarim kushtavatim Radha kundam girivaramaho radhika matavasham Prato yasya praktita kripaya Shri Gurun Tamnatosmi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 11, the Beta Kirtan pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're going right to text number 1. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merged the entire world into the ocean of ecstatic love by performing his beautiful dances within the temple of Jagannath. He danced exquisitely and jumped high. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Sri Advaita Prabhu. And all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The next day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya requested Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give him permission to submit a statement without fear. The Lord gave the Bhattacharya assurance that he could speak without fear, but added that if his statement were suitable, he would accept it, and if it were not, he would reject it. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "There is a king named Prataparudra Roy. He is very anxious to meet you, and he wants your permission." As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this proposal, he immediately covered his ears with his hands and said, "My dear Sarvabhauma, why are you requesting such an undesirable thing from me? Since I am in the renounced order, it is as dangerous for me to meet a king as to meet a woman. To meet either would be just like drinking poison. Niskinchanasya bhagavad bhajano mukasya param jagamashor bhavasagarasya sandarshanam vashainam atayoshitam cha ha hanta vishabhakshanatopya sadhu. Greatly lamenting, the Lord then informed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, "Alas, for a person who is seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engage in sense gratification, or seeing a woman who is similarly interested, is more abominable than drinking poison willingly." This is a quotation from Sri Chandrodaya Nataka 8.23. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enunciates the principle for a sannyasi renouncing the material world for spiritual advancement. Spiritual advancement is not meant for magic shows and jugglery, but for crossing the material world and being transferred to the spiritual world. Param jagamasho means desiring to go to the other side of the material world. There is a river called Vaitarani, and on one side of this river is the material world, and on the other side is the spiritual world. Since the Vaitarani River is compared to a great ocean, it is named Bhava Sagara, the ocean of repeated birth and death. Spiritual life aims at stopping this repetition of birth and death and entering into the spiritual world where one can live eternally cognizant and blissful. Unfortunately, the general populace does not know anything about spiritual life or the spiritual world. The spiritual world is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Parastasmat bhavo nyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yat saksar vishabhuteshu nashyatsu na pranashyati. Yet there is another unmanifested nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Thus, there is a spiritual nature beyond this material world, and that spiritual nature exists eternally. Spiritual advancement means stopping material activities and entering into spiritual activities. This is the process of bhakti yoga. In the material world, the via medium for sense gratification is mainly a woman. One who is seriously interested in spiritual life should strictly avoid women. A sannyasi should never see a man or woman for material benefit. In addition, talks with materialistic men and women are also dangerous, and they are compared to drinking poison. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict on this point. He therefore refused to see King Prataparudra, who was naturally always engaged in political and economic affairs. The Lord even refused to see the king, despite the request of a personality like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is the Lord's intimate friend and devotee. Text 9. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, "My dear Lord, what you have said is correct, but this king is not an ordinary king. He is a great devotee and a servant of Lord Jagannath." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, although it is correct that the king is a great devotee, he is still to be considered a venomous snake. Similarly, even though a woman may be made of wood, one becomes agitated simply by touching her form. Sri Chanakya Pandit has stated in his moral instruction that Tyaja Durjana Samsargam Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam. This means that one has to abandon the association of materialistic people and associate with spiritually advanced people. However qualified a materialist may be, he is no better than a venomous serpent. Everyone knows that a snake is dangerous and poisonous, and when its hood is decorated with jewels, it is no less poisonous or dangerous. However qualified a materialist may be, he is no better than a snake decorated with jewels. One should therefore be careful in dealing with such materialists, just as one would be careful in dealing with a bejeweled serpent. Even though a woman be made of wood or stone, she becomes attractive when decorated. One becomes sexually agitated even by touching the form. Therefore, one should not trust his mind, which is so fickle that it can give way to enemies at any moment. The mind is always accompanied by 6 enemies, namely Kam, Krodh, Mad, Moha, Matsarya, and Bhaya. That is lust, anger, intoxication, illusion, envy, and fear. Although the mind may be merged in spiritual consciousness, one should always be very careful in dealing with it, just as one is careful in dealing with a snake. One should never think that his mind is trained and that he can do whatever he likes. One interested in spiritual life should always engage his mind in the service of the Lord so that the enemies of the mind, who always accompany the mind, will be subdued. If the mind is not engaged in Krishna consciousness at every moment, there is a chance that it will give way to its enemies. In this way, we become victims of the mind. Chanting the Hare Krishna mantra engages the mind at the lotus feet of Krishna constantly. Thus, the mind's enemies do not have a chance to strike. Following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example in these verses, we should be very careful in dealing with the mind, which should not be indulged in any circumstance. Once we indulge the mind, excuse me, it can create havoc in this life, even though we may be spiritually advanced. The mind is specifically agitated through the association of materialistic men and women. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through his personal behavior, warns everyone to avoid meeting a materialistic person or a woman. Just as one is immediately frightened upon seeing a live serpent or even the form of a serpent, one endeavoring for self-realization should similarly fear a materialistic person and a woman. Indeed, he should not even glance at their bodily features. This is a quotation from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Nataka. Bhattacharya, if you continue to speak like this, you will never see me here again. Therefore, you should never let such a request come from your mouth. Being afraid, Sarvabhauma returned home and began to meditate on the matter. At this time, Maharaj Prataparudra arrived at Jagannath Puri, Purushottam, and accompanied by his secretaries, ministers, and military officers, went to visit the temple of Lord Jagannath. It appears that Maharaj Prataparudra used to live at Cuttack, his capital. Later, he shifted his capital to Khurda, a few miles from Jagannath Puri. Presently, there is a railway station there called Khurda Road. When King Prataparudra returned to Jagannath Puri, Ramananda Roy came with him. Ramananda Roy immediately went to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great pleasure. Purport: all Indian kings are given titles. Sometimes they are known as Chhatrapati, sometimes as Narapati, sometimes as Ashwapati, and so on. The king of Orissa is addressed as Gajapati. Upon meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Roy offered his obeisances. The Lord embraced him, and both of them began to cry in the great ecstasy of love. Seeing Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intimate dealings with Sri Ramananda Roy, all the devotees there were astonished. Ramananda Roy said, I duly informed King Prataparudra of your order for me to retire from service. By your grace, the king was pleased to relieve me of these material activities. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Ramananda Roy to retire from his governorship, and according to the Lord's desire, Ramananda Roy petitioned the king. The king was very pleased to give him relief, and thus Ramananda Roy retired from service and received a pension from the government. I said, Your Majesty, I am now not willing to engage in political activities. I desire only to stay at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kindly give me permission. When I submitted this proposal, the king immediately became very pleased upon hearing your name. Indeed, he instantly rose from his throne and embraced me. My dear Lord, as soon as the king heard your holy name, he was immediately overwhelmed by great ecstatic love. Catching my hand, he displayed all the symptoms of love. As soon as he heard my petition, he immediately granted me a pension without restrictions. Thus the king granted me a full salary as a pension and requested me to engage without anxiety in the service of your lotus feet. Then Maharaj Prataparudra very humbly said, I am most fallen and abominable, and I am unfit to receive an interview with the Lord. One's life is successful if one engages in his service. The king then said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda. He is very merciful, and I hope that in a future birth he will allow me an interview. My Lord, I don't think that there is even a fraction of Maharaj Prataparudra's loving ecstasy in me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, My dear Ramananda Roy, you are the foremost of all the devotees of Krishna. Therefore, whoever loves you is certainly a very fortunate person. Because the king has shown so much love for you, Lord Krishna will certainly accept him. Purport: King Prataparudra requested an interview with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Bhattacharya, who duly submitted the request. The Lord, however, immediately refused this interview. Now, when Ramananda Roy informed the Lord how eager the king was to see him, the Lord was immediately pleased. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Ramananda Roy to retire from his government post and come to Sri Purushottam Kshetra, Jagannath Puri, to live with him. When this proposal was submitted to King Prataparudra, he immediately accepted it and also encouraged Ramananda Roy by allowing him a full pension. This was very much appreciated by the Lord, and this confirms the fact that the Lord is more pleased when one serves the servant of the Lord. In ordinary parlance, it is said, if you love me, love my dog. To approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to go through his confidential servant. This is the method. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly says, because the king loves you, Ramananda Roy, he is very fortunate. Krishna will certainly accept him due to his love for you. 28. Ye me bhakta jana partha, na me bhaktash chate jana, mat bhaktanam cha ye bhaktas, te me bhakta tamamata. Lord Krishna told Arjuna, those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees, but those who are the devotees of my servant are factually my devotees. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes this verse from the Adi Purana. The verse is also included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. My devotees take great care and respect in rendering me service. They offer obeisances to me with all their bodily limbs. They worship other devotees and find all living entities related to me. For me, they engage the entire energy of their bodies. They engage the power of speech in the glorification of my qualities and form. They also dedicate their minds unto me and try to give up all kinds of material desires. Thus my devotees are characterized. Purport: these two verses are quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.19.21 through 22. They were spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, who is answering Uddhava's inquiry about devotional service. Text 31. Lord Shiva told the goddess Durga, Aradhananam sarvesham, Vishnur aradhanam param, Tasmat parataram devi, Tadyanam samarchanam. My dear Devi, although the Vedas recommend worship of demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas, who are related to Lord Vishnu, Purport: the Vedas are divided into three divisions: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. These are activities dealing with fruitive work, empiric, philosophical speculation, and worship. There are recommendations in the Vedas for the worship of various demigods, as well as Lord Vishnu. In this quotation from the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva answers a question posed to him by goddess Durga. This verse is also included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 2.4 by Srila Rupa Goswami. The words Vishnur Aradhanam refer to the worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Thus, the supreme form of worship is the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is further concluded that the worshipper of Lord Vishnu renders better service by worshiping the devotee of Lord Krishna. There are different types of devotees: those in Shanta Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, and Madhurya Ras. Although all the rasas are on the transcendental platform, Madhurya Ras is the supreme transcendental mellow. Consequently, it is concluded that the worship of devotees engaged in the Lord's service in Madhurya Ras is the supreme spiritual activity. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers mainly worship Lord Krishna in Madhurya Ras. Other Vaishnava acharyas recommend worship up to Vatsalya Ras. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami in his Vidagdha Madhava 1.2 describes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult as supreme. Anarpita charim jirat karuna yavatinana kalau samarpayitum munato jwalarasam sabhakti shriyam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this age of Kali to exhibit the super excellence of Madhurya Ras, a gift never previously bestowed by any acharya or incarnation. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was accepted as the most magnanimous incarnation. It is he only who distributed love of Krishna while exhibiting the super excellence of loving Krishna in the conjugal rasa. 32. Those whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities. This verse is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.7.20. It was spoken by Vidura in his conversation with Maitreya Rishi, a great devotee of the Lord. Paramananda Puri, Ramananda Bharati, Gosai, Swarup Damodar Gosai, Lord Nityananda, Jagadananda, Mukunda, and others were present before the Lord at that time. Sri Ramananda Roy therefore offered his obeisances to all the Lord's devotees, in particular to the four spiritual masters. Thus, Ramananda Roy suitably met all the devotees of the Lord. Purport. The four spiritual masters referred to in this verse are Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Swarup Damodar, and Lord Nityananda. I repeat, Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Swarup Damodar, and Lord Nityananda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next asked Ramananda Roy, "Have you already visited the temple of the lotus-eyed Lord Jagannath?" Ramananda Roy replied, "I shall now go to visit the temple." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "What have you done, my dear Roy? Why did you not first see Lord Jagannath and then come here? Why have you come here first?" Ramananda Roy said, "The legs are like the chariot, and the heart is like the charioteer. Wherever the heart takes the living entity is obliged to go." Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 1861, Lord Krishna explains, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshera jurnatishtati pramayan sarva bhutani yantrarudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Thus, the living entity wanders within this universe, riding upon a chariot, the body, bestowed by material nature. A similar explanation is given in the Katha Upanishad 1.3.3 through 4. Here it is said that the living entity is the passenger riding in the chariot of the body, which is offered by material nature. The intelligence is the charioteer. The mind constitutes the reins controlling the horses, and the senses are the horses. Thus, the living entity is the false enjoyer of the material world. One who is advanced in Krishna consciousness can control the mind and intelligence, and in this way rein in the horses, the senses, even though they are very powerful. One who can control the senses by his mind and intelligence can very easily approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Vishnu, who is the ultimate goal of life. Tad Vishnu Paramang Padam Sada Pashanti Suraha. Those who are actually advanced approach Lord Vishnu, their ultimate goal. Such people are never captivated by Lord Vishnu's external energy, the material world. Sri Ramananda Roy continued, "What shall I do? My mind has brought me here. I could not consider going first to Lord Jagannath's temple." Prabhu kahe, "Shigra gya kar darshan, aiche ghara jai, kara kutuma milan." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, immediately go to Lord Jagannath's temple to see the Lord, then go home and meet your family members. Having received Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's permission, Ramananda Roy hastily went to the temple of Lord Jagannath. Who can understand the devotional service of Ramananda Roy? When King Prataparuja returned to Jagannath Puri, he called for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When the Bhattacharya went to see the king offered him respects and made the following inquiries. The king said, "Have you submitted my petition to the Lord?" Sarvabhauma replied, "Yes, with much endeavor, I have tried my best." Yet despite my great endeavor, the Lord would not agree to see a king. Indeed, he said that if he were asked again, he would quit Jagannath Puri and go elsewhere. Hearing this, the king became very unhappy and, greatly lamenting, began to speak as follows. The king said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended just to deliver all kinds of sinful, low-born persons. Consequently, he has delivered sinners like Jagai, Madhai. Alas, has Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu incarnated to deliver all kinds of sinners, with the exception of a king named Maharaj Prataparuja? Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is thus described by Narottam Das Thakur. Patita Pavana Hetu, Tava Avatar, Mo Sama Patita Prabhu Na Paibear. If Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended to reclaim sinners, then one who is the most sinful and lowborn is the first candidate for the Lord's consideration. Maharaj Prataparuja considered himself a most fallen soul because he had to deal with material things constantly and enjoy material profits. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's business was the deliverance of the most fallen. How then could he reject the king? The more fallen a person is, the more he has the right to be delivered by the Lord, provided, of course, he surrenders unto the Lord. Maharaj Prataparuja was a fully surrendered soul. Therefore, the Lord could not refuse him on the grounds that he was a worldly pounds, shillings man. Alas, has Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his advent deciding that he will deliver all others with the exception of me? He bestows his merciful glance upon many lower class men who are usually not even to be seen. Purport. This verse is found in the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Nataka. Maharaj Prataparuja continued, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is determined not to see me, then I am determined to give up my life if I do not see him. Purport. A devotee with Maharaj Prataparuja's determination will certainly be victorious in advancing in Krishna consciousness. Sri Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 9:14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata namasyantash chamam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. Bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. These are the symptoms of a Mahatma engaged in the Lord's service, in full Krishna consciousness. Thus, Maharaj Prataparuja's determination is very much exalted and is called Dhridavrata. Because of this determination, he was finally able to receive Lord Chaitanya's direct mercy. If I do not receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, my body and my kingdom are certainly useless. Purport. This is an excellent example of Dhridavrata, determination. If one does not receive the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mercy, one's life is defeated. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5, it is said, Parabhavas tavadabhota jato yavanna jignasata atmatattvam. Unless one inquires into spiritual life, everything is useless. Without spiritual inquiry, our labor and the object of our labor are simply a waste of time. Hearing King Prataparuja's determination, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became thoughtful. Indeed, he was very much astonished to see the king's determination. Purport. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was astonished because such determination is not possible for a worldly man attached to material enjoyment. The king certainly had ample opportunity for material enjoyment, but he was thinking that his kingdom and everything else was useless if he could not see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is certainly sufficient cause for astonishment. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that bhakti, devotional service, must be unconditional. No material impediments can actually check the advancement of devotional service, be it executed by a common man or a king. In any case, devotional service rendered to the Lord is always complete, despite the devotee's material position. Devotional service is so exalted that it can be executed by anyone in any position. One must simply be dridhavrta, firmly determined. Finally, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "My dear king, do not worry. Because of your firm determination, I'm sure that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy will definitely be bestowed upon you." Purport. Due to King Prataparudra's firm determination, the Bhattacharya predicted that the king would receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy without fail. As confirmed elsewhere in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya 19.151, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti-lata-bhij. By the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna, one gets the seed of devotional service. The Bhattacharya was the spiritual master of King Prataparudra, and he gave his blessings to the effect that the Lord would be merciful upon the king. The mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna combined to grant success to a devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Vedas. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata devi tata garau tasyaite katita hyarta prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Maharaj Prataparuja had firm faith in the Bhattacharya, who declared Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Having firm faith in the Bhattacharya as a spiritual master, King Prataparudra immediately accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality, as the Supreme Lord. Thus he began worshipping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mind. This is the process of devotional service according to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi yuktvaivam manam parayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. This process is very simple. One need only be firmly convinced by the spiritual master that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one decides this, he can make further progress by thinking of Krishna, chanting Krishna. Can he make it? And glorifying him. There is then no doubt that such a surrendered soul will receive the blessings of the Lord Krishna. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explains this further. Thank you very much. I have to go. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining. We'll end the call now. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhasha, Kripa Sindhu.